This sounds like a threat whispered behind closed doors. But it wasn't. It was the United States' top diplomat in Canada, on national television, telling the Canadian government to buy the F-35, or else. The story goes like this. In January 2026, the U.S. ambassador supposedly issued an ultimatum that tied the future of NORAD, the defense agreement that has protected North America for over 60 years, directly to a weapons deal. The alleged threat? If Canada backed away from buying 88 F-35 fighter jets, the foundational defense pact would have to be altered. It sounds more like an offer from a mob boss than a statement from an ally. Buy our stuff, or that nice little security partnership you've got there might have an accident. This kind of story is perfect. It's a geopolitical firestorm waiting to happen, with everyone asking, is this an alliance or a protection racket? It's a powerful story. It has all the elements of a great geopolitical drama. But here's the thing. It's not true. The firestorm, the ultimatum, the diplomatic incident, it was largely smoke. And separating that smoke from the fire reveals a much deeper, more complex story about Canada, the United States, and the most expensive weapon system in history. To understand why a story about an American ambassador strong-arming Canada is so believable, you have to understand that the F-35 has been politically toxic in Canada for decades. The real story doesn't begin with a threat. It begins with a handshake and a checkbook. Back in 1997, Canada paid $10 million to become an informed partner in the American-led program to build a next-generation stealth fighter. In 2002, Canada upped its investment, becoming a Level 3 partner in what would become the F-35. This wasn't just a military decision, it was an industrial one, giving Canadian companies a chance to build parts for a global fleet of thousands of jets. For years, it all simmered in the background. Then, in 2010, the Conservative government of Prime Minister Stephen Harper announced they would buy 65 F-35s without a competition. The government assured everyone the cost would be around $9 billion for the jets, with total life cycle costs of $16 billion. The backlash was instant. Critics, including Alan Williams, the very official who had signed the original partnership deal, slammed the sole-sourced plan. He testified that avoiding a competition was a recipe for squandering billions, and that the government's justification insults our intelligence. Then the cost estimates came under fire. In 2011, the Parliamentary Budget Officer, Kevin Page, released a bombshell report calculating the true life cycle cost wouldn't be $16 billion, but $29.3 billion. A year later, Canada's own Auditor General accused the Department of Defense of lowballing the numbers. The F-35 was now a national scandal. The controversy became a red-hot issue in the 2015 federal election. The Liberal Party, led by Justin Trudeau, made a crystal-clear promise. If elected, they would not buy the F-35. They won the election, and it looked like the F-35 was finally dead in Canada. But Canada still needed new jets. The government's first idea, buying interim Super Hornets from Boeing, imploded after a trade dispute between Boeing and Canadian company Bombardier. Years were ticking by. Finally, backed into a corner, the government was forced to do what critics had demanded all along: launch a full, open competition. The contenders? The European Typhoon, the Boeing Super Hornet, the Swedish Saab Gripen, and, ironically, the Lockheed Martin F-35. After a long battle, It came down to the Gripen and the F-35. And then, in March 2022, after a decade of political drama, the government announced the winner. Based on the military's evaluation, the best jet for Canada was the F-35. The very same jet the government had promised never to buy. In January 2023, the deal was made final. Canada would purchase 88 F-35A Lightning II fighters. The decade-long war seemed to be over. But the real battle, the one against the astronomical price tag, was just beginning. Let's talk about the number. The number that fuels all the politics and all the broken promises. When the Canadian government finalized the F-35 deal in January 2023, the sticker price for the acquisition was announced as $19 billion. That's the single largest investment in the Royal Canadian Air Force in more than 30 years. But that's just the down payment. To get the true cost, you have to look at a report from the Parliamentary Budget Officer published in November 2023. The PBO did a full analysis of the F-35 program from the first dollar spent to the last. Their conclusion? The total, all-in, full life cycle cost of Canada's 88 F-35s is estimated to be $73.9 billion. Let that sink in. $74 billion. It's a number so massive it's hard to grasp, so let's break it down. That figure covers 4 phases. First, development. This includes the hundreds of millions Canada has already paid since 1997 just to be a partner in the program. Second, acquisition. The PBO pegs this at $19.8 billion. This isn't just for the 88 jets. It includes spare parts, weapons packages, training simulators, and brand new, highly secure hangars and facilities in Alberta and Quebec, which themselves cost billions. The first jets are scheduled for delivery in 2026, but they won't even be based in Canada at first. They'll go to a training center in Arizona while the new facilities are built. Third is operations and sustainment, and it's by far the biggest piece of the pie, an estimated $53.8 billion. This covers everything needed to fly and maintain the fleet until it's retired sometime in the 2060s. It's pilots, fuel, maintenance, and constant software upgrades. The F-35 is a flying computer, and those updates are controlled by a U.S.-led consortium. Canada has to pay its share for every single one. Finally, there's disposal. At the end of the jet's life, you can't just send it to a scrapyard. The PBO estimates it will cost $250 million just to get rid of the fleet. When you add it all up, you get to that $74 billion figure. It's this colossal sum that forms the real, inescapable pressure behind the F-35 decision. It's the source of the decades of political anger, and it's why the idea of a cheaper alternative has always been so dangerously appealing. Throughout the F-35's tortured journey in Canada, there has always been a ghost at the feast. The Saab JAS-39 Gripen. The Swedish fighter was the constant runner-up, the David to the F-35's Goliath. To its fans, the Gripen wasn't just a cheaper option, it was a smarter one for Canada's specific needs. Saab's pitch was a masterclass in hitting every single one of the F-35's weak spots. First, cost. The Gripen was widely seen as being significantly cheaper to buy and, more importantly, cheaper to fly per hour. For a country that has to patrol the second-largest landmass on Earth, Lower operating costs mean you can afford to fly more. Second was its design. The Gripen was built for Sweden's reality, operating in harsh, cold climates and landing on short, improvised runways, like sections of a highway. This capability seemed perfect for Canada's vast and isolated north. Where the F-35 is a complex, hangar-hungry machine, the Gripen was pitched as a rugged fighter that could be maintained and turned around quickly by a small crew. But the most powerful part of Saab's offer was industrial. They promised that if Canada chose the Gripen, the jets would be built in Canada, creating thousands of jobs and guaranteeing full control over the jet's software and upgrades. This was a direct shot at the F-35 model, where the U.S. ultimately holds the keys to the system. The Gripen offered a vision of strategic independence. So if the Gripen was cheaper, better for the Arctic, and came with jobs and sovereignty, why didn't Canada choose it? The answer comes down to capability and, that key word, interoperability. This brings us back to the original story about the NORAD threat. Was it just a sales tactic or a real military concern? The truth is, it's complicated. The Gripen is fully NATO compatible. It uses standard NATO data links and weapons. The idea that it can't talk to an American jet is false. However, the F-35 offers a completely different level of integration. As a fifth-generation stealth aircraft, its main advantage is its ability to fuse and share massive amounts of data across a network of other F-35s, satellites, ships, and ground forces, all without being detected. The Canadian and American military establishments argued that this deep-level integration is essential for countering future threats. In their view, while the Gripen is an excellent 4.5-generation fighter, it belongs to a different technological era. For the military planners, the choice was clear. When your primary partner is the United States, buying anything other than the jet they've made the cornerstone of their own air power is a strategic risk. It would create a mixed fleet from a continental defense perspective, adding complexity where seamless integration is the goal. You could make it work, but it wouldn't be as capable as a pure F-35 force. In the end, Ottawa sided with the military planners. They decided that the benefit of perfect interoperability with the United States outweighed the Gripen's advantages in cost and industrial independence. They bet that the alliance was more important than autonomy. And that choice will define Canadian defense for the next 50 years. So, no, the decision on Canada's next fighter jet wasn't made easy by a thuggish threat from an ambassador. That's a simple narrative for a complicated reality. The fact that the story was so believable is a testament to how controversial this purchase has been from the very beginning. The decision was really forged over 30 years, shaped by broken political promises, eye-watering financial figures, and the undeniable strategic reality of sharing a border with a military superpower. The real pressure on Ottawa wasn't a single comment in a TV interview. It's the quiet, constant pressure of geography. It's the pressure of alliance commitments. And it's the pressure of a $74 billion price tag that will shadow Canadian budgets for half a century. The question for Canada was never just about which plane to buy. It was about what kind of partner it would be and what price it was willing to pay for security and sovereignty in an uncertain world. This is one of the most complex, expensive, and politically charged decisions in modern Canadian history. What do you think? Was the decades-long, painful journey back to the F-35 a necessary move to modernize the Air Force for the 21st century? Or was it a colossal failure of political and fiscal responsibility? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into the world of military geopolitics, make sure to subscribe.